Hey there, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo.
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz,
Hello.
And today we have a topic by Adam. I don't know what it is, he hasn't told me anything about it, but hopefully it's interesting.
I did tell you a little bit about it. I told you that I was going to be covering haunted Italian villas.
I totally forgot. That was a couple days ago. I've forgotten. I'm excited. This will be interesting.
I'm actually really excited. I think it turned out super well. I didn't know what to expect from it, but I had the idea pop into my head. And I was like, yeah, let's just see how this goes. And by the time I was done writing, I was like, yeah, I think this is pretty good. So hopefully you will think the same. But
this is how good he thinks it's going to be. He's printed out the scripto, so I can't ruin it for myself.
Oh, as you know, she will read. We share the same screen. It's directly in front of both of us that usually has my digital script upon it that I read from. And sometimes she'll read ahead. And there's one thing in particular near the end that I want to make sure she doesn't read ahead, because if she starts reacting to it without me describing it to the audience, it loses its impact. So yes, I have printed out my script to prevent that from happening, but
so that it'll be a deep impact.
Yeah, sure. Just like that movie that I've literally never seen.
You've never seen Deep Impact?
You know why? Because I watched Armageddon instead.
I watched Armageddon too, but sometimes you need a deep impact to, cleanse the palate.
That's the story. No, that's the title of your sex tape. So, anywho, we haven't been here in like 2 weeks. It's been pretty busy, lots of stuff going on. We've had multiple trips to the DMV, which has been awful. The DMV sucks. If you work at a DMV, I feel so sorry for you. If you're visiting a DMV, I feel even worse for you because, we went there Friday. I went back again on Monday because, of course, I couldn't complete all the tasks I was there for.
Does the DMV open on Saturday? Is that a government thing?
I don't think so. I think it's a Monday through Friday thing.
Oh.
There's nothing like having an appointment like a month in advance, and you get there and you wait a couple hours, and then you're finally at the window and you have all your stuff ready, and then they tell you, oh, you need to do this thing and come back later. It's like, oh, well, that sucks. And then when you go back later, it's like, oh, by the way, there's no appointments available for now until the end of time. So you're going to have to stand in the really long line, which was definitely not ideal. In the meantime, though, I had some friends visit. My friend Tim, who I've known since I was 7 years old. He came out with his wife, and we went to Disneyland, and it was super dope. We had a really good time. So we had a great session on Smuggler's Run. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's the Millennium Falcon ride where you pilot the Millennium Falcon. And it's really fun. We had a great time. We laughed like the entire ride, which is exactly what you want to do. And then we came home exhausted, which is typical of a good Disneyland trip.
My ankles still hurt.
Really? I think my feet are still a little bit swollen, which hasn't happened in a long time.
I still have Band-Aids on the back of my ankles because we went hard.
Yeah, we did a lot for a like casual Disney, we don't have to do everything trip. We wound up doing quite a bit. But yeah, it was super fun, and we just sort of needed some time off with people coming in and a lot of different things happening in our lives, getting prepped for a vacation that we're going to be taking in the near future, which brings me to something I wanted to mention before we got started, which is a little programming note. So you guys are getting this episode on Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. What we hope to have happen is that next week on Wednesday, you will get episode 299. And then the following week, probably Wednesday, you'll get episode 300, which we're not exactly sure what special thing we're doing. We have a single idea for like a segment that sounds kind of fun, because like the centennial episodes are a little bit different than the annual episodes. It's been like a year where we celebrate, oh, it's year 7 or whatever. We usually take a lot of questions from the audience and answer, whatever.
It's funny because sometimes we get the same questions, but we answer them differently because
time has passed.
Yeah. Things change.
For episode 300, though, I don't know if we're going to ask for questions from the audience or we're just going to do something like silly or fun, but it's definitely not going to be a specific like topic episode. But we're going to try and make it worth listening to, basically. So, yeah, that's the programming notes. And then after episode 300, I think there'll be maybe 2 weeks without an episode because we will not be here. We'll be on vacation. So we'll try and post some stuff where we're at and see if there's any like spooky stuff nearby that we can maybe pop by and take a picture of or record a video where we're saying hi. We'll see what happens while we're on vacation. But yeah, we're going to have this episode and then the next two Wednesday, hopefully.
Wednesday.
And then after that, a couple of weeks where we're just not here. So we will be back after that. But yeah, I think that's just about it, right? We caught up. Programming notes. There's a dog licking my ankle right now, which may or may not be audible. Let's hope not. Yeah. Let's get started.
Yeah, you're the topic person.
All
host.
right.
You're the host.
I am the topic person. So this week I realized that we're about to go on vacation, which usually means that I would do a topic about a plane crash so that I can be extra nervous about flying. But this time I've learned my lesson, and I'm going to be covering a topic that doesn't make me nervous on the plane. But wouldn't it be crazy if the one time I don't cover a plane crash before we fly is the time our plane crashes?
I would like for you to not talk about plane crashes before we go on a plane or number of planes. Thank you.
I'd just like to point out yet again that people saying, I hope my plane doesn't crash, means they're basically predicting it, which makes it less likely to happen statistically. So I just saved your life and mine by proxy.
What if you didn't? What if you have...
Then our show's going to get super famous after we're dead, which is unfortunate. But hey, someone will collect those royalties, I'm sure.
What the frick?
Anyways, we are going to be in Italy soon. It is one of the places that we're going to visit. So let's cover the topic of haunted Italian villas. I do think by the end of this, I just call it Haunted Italy, because I'm only going to cover 2 places specifically.
But there are a lot of places in Italy that are haunted.
Shit ton of places. And I looked up some. I found 2 different lists that were, one was 10 places, one was 20. And the one that had 20 places only had like 3 or 4 from the other list. And Italy's not the most massive of countries, but that's a lot of places that are haunted. My intention was to have 3 places, but my second place was just so darn interesting that I told myself, let's just stick with 2. So we're going to jump straight into it, and we're going to start out in northern Italy in a little province called Ferrara. I'm pretty sure...
Not to be confused with Ferrari.
I'm pretty sure
Ferrari.
That's how you pronounce it. And for those of you thinking, Ferrara does sound pretty familiar. I mean, Robin almost spoiled it. Yes, America Ferrara is from there. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. Actually, I didn't check her lineage. I thought you were going to be like, oh my God, is it attached to Ferrari in some way? No, Ferrari's not even made there. So obviously Ferrari's named after Enzo Ferrari, its creator.
Yeah.
But anyways, the location that I'm covering in the province of Ferrara lives in the heart of a small town called Kona. C-O-N-A, not K-O-N-A, if you're familiar with the coffee, right? There's coffee called Kona coffee.
Yeah, it's from Kona, Hawaii.
Yeah, so different place, opposite side of the planet pretty much. Within the town of Kona is an abandoned villa known as Villa Magnoni. Some places we've covered in the past, like hotels or houses, are still open or inhabited if they're like residences. Not Villa Magnoni. This place has been abandoned for what the internet calls, quote unquote, years.
Okay.
Not sure how long that is. I think it's a century. I think it's at least 5 decades from some of the stuff that I was reading online. The outside actually looks okay. It doesn't look that bad. Like if you're going through rural Italy and you're seeing different villas, if you were to come across Villa Magnoni, you wouldn't know right away based off of its appearance that it was abandoned. I'd probably put it close to like 50-50. When you walked up, you're like, either that place is old and people still live there, or the inside looks like shit and the outside looks okay, which is what I would say is going on with this. I'll post some pictures to our Instagram. Okay. The inside is definitely like the inside of an abandoned place. There's like no furniture. There's a bunch of stuff that's strewn about. But the outside is actually kind of nice. Like the walls are still standing. They're not like dilapidated. There's no holes in them.
Are they like stone walls or something? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know exactly. I'm not a mason or whatever. I don't know exactly what they're made out of. But if you think villa, whatever you think the outside of a villa would look like, that's what this looks like. There is still a garden. There's a residential portion of this place. There's a garden that actually still grows crops, apparently. Like whatever was planted there still is growing and thriving. So the outward appearance looks like this is a place that's pretty nice. There are some stables that are no longer in use, but I imagine some ghost horses hang out in there. And, you know, for the most part, it seems like a nice place. Like if you're going towards it, you might even think it was picturesque. Almost like its outward appearance is meant to lure you in. And this villa...
I'm wondering, okay, why? Why? Tell me.
This villa has a story that's associated with it that's kind of famous. It almost sounds like a local legend, except it's not that local because a lot of people know about it. And I cannot confirm whether or not any of this is true. So I'll go ahead and toss out the whole, this could all be bullshit. Caveat, and we can just apply that to the entire episode, obviously. But, I mean, we're going to be talking about some curses and some ghost stuff. So let's go over this local legend. So in the 1980s, 4 local youths decided to go Scooby-Dooing, as I like to call it, or investigating a private location that you're not supposed to investigate, because they had heard that this place was haunted. What they had actually heard was there was a specific ghost that haunts Villa Magnoni, and that ghost is actually supposed to be a witch.
Okay.
And these 4 youths said, hey, let's go check that shit out. It was abandoned and known to have this creepy backstory, but they just wanted to see for themselves, because when you're young, you think you're indestructible. I don't think that's necessarily true. When I was young, I never thought I was indestructible. I was just stupid. So there is
YOLO.
a difference.
Yeah, am I right?
Yeah, in some cases, YOLO means you're not going to live long because you have the attitude of YOLO. But they wandered up to this place. Okay, let me rephrase that. They drove there. They got out of their car. They started wandering up to it. They're outside the grounds. They're checking out the garden. They're peering inside, looking around. And as they did so, they heard something that unnerved them, but didn't quite scare them. And they thought, we should really go inside to investigate. They heard the sound of a child crying inside
pass.
the villa. And they sincerely thought there is a kid in there. Some people say the story says there's an infant. I don't think teenagers would go and check on a baby. I think they would fuck right off. But a lot of the other sites that I read this story on said it was the sound of like a young kid. And I think it said like 3 of the 4 of these youths had like younger brothers or sisters where they would want to have like that instinct, like, let's go find this person who may have been Scooby-Dooing themselves and wound up getting hurt. So they hear this crying coming from inside the villa, and they go inside to see if they can locate this little human that appears to be in distress. But when they entered the villa, they only heard the cries coming from different rooms. So as they entered one room, the cry could be heard somewhere else. And as they entered that other room, it's like the cry would shift. In addition to that, they heard the sounds of moaning, not the good kind, and wailing within the house, subdued but definitely very present and very, very creepy. And eventually, after they felt like they had checked out the villa and they could not find anyone in distress, they thought, this is way too creepy, let's leave. They just needed to bail, and they were done with it. They had checked it out. They definitely thought they had confirmed that it was haunted. But on their way out, as they approached the car they had driven up in, they noticed an old woman in one of the windows staring at them as they walked away. And they were kind of creeped out because that woman had definitely not been present as they walked to the house. They didn't see anyone. They didn't hear anyone moving around besides them. But there she was in this window staring down at them. And then she started yelling at them.
What did she say?
So there's 2 things I read that she said. One of them is that she shouted at them, telling them never to return. The other thing I read, and one of the more detailed stories, wasn't that she shouted, never return. She shouted, you will never return, which is very different. One of them is a demand, and the other one is just a statement. Either way, it was super creepy. They got in their car, and they drove away, very, very creeped out. But on the way home, they got into a car accident.
Did they die?
3 of the 4 of them died.
Shut the front door.
The 4th one woke up in the hospital and told the authorities what had happened. The authorities did not treat him like he was crazy. They listened to the story, and apparently the reason these kids went there, a lot of people had stated that they had seen this old woman in the window before. So their solution to this, because they knew there was not a whole lot they could do, this place was owned by someone, they decided that they would just go board up the windows.
Bruh.
So they didn't tear it down. They didn't put a fence around it.
So people couldn't see inside.
So the witch couldn't look out the window to curse people on their way out.
Oh, chills.
It's this like real like practical, pragmatic way of being like, if she exists and everyone keeps saying they see her in the window, what if we board up the windows? Because people can't see through wood.
Dude, that's really scary. I have chills.
Yeah.
Like, that's so scary.
I was like, this one is super interesting. So the woman that is seen at Villa Magnoni is said to be the witch, and she is apparently there to haunt the grounds and curse those who visit. Although a lot of places online say that she has some beef with the residents of Kona, which is the nearby town, and she is there to curse them specifically. So I don't know. It's some place where if you're going there, you're risking something, terrible happening to you while you're there or after you've left. And some folks have been interested in purchasing this property in the past. I tried to find the sales history of it because I really do try and do my research when I find places that actually exist, not just like a place of myth. And I couldn't find anything. It has a very odd sales history. There's been multiple offers put in on this place. The owner is unknown. It looks like it was kept like under wraps for a very long time. It did eventually switch into the possession of the Italian Red Cross.
What?
It's unknown if the owner sold it, gifted it, or if it was taken by the Italian government and then put into the care of the Italian Red Cross. But apparently I should say, as of 2021, which is the most recent information I could find, this place still exists. It's still standing. It's still said to be cursed, and it's owned by the Italian Red Cross, who have done nothing to it.
Wow.
It's just sitting there. So it definitely sounds like it's creepy. It definitely sounds like it's real. Might actually be cursed. Don't know if there's actually a witch. One thing I do know, though, is that Villa Magnoni is only 90 minutes by bus from Venice, from where we're staying.
Pass.
Just saying.
Yeah, pass. Big pass.
Speaking of Venice, let's move on to our next location. I put next villa. It's not really a villa, and this will be the second and final thing I'm going to tell you about, because there's actually a lot to cover on this one. And like I mentioned, it's not really a villa because it's considered a palace. And this palace is named Casa Cadario, which is a pretty dope name, if you ask me.
Okay, what does it mean?
It's the name of the family who originally built it and lived there is Dario.
Okay.
So Casa, it's C-A' Dario. I don't know, Casa obviously means house. I'm not stupid. I don't know why C-A is the prefix for this, but that's just what it is. It's also called Palazzo Dario, which I'm pretty sure translates to
the Dario
Palace.
Or something.
But that is the next one we're covering. And this place is said to be home to a curse, not necessarily a witch who's cursing people.
It is cursed.
It is cursed. The building is cursed. For the folks who own this place, live here, or merely set foot within its walls, they are said to eventually be the victim of 1, financial ruin, or 2, violent murder. In some cases,
¿Por qué no los dos?
both. I should actually say violent death, as I did more research. The violent murder thing didn't really hold up, but yeah, that's not the best of news. We'll get to it.
Okay.
So the place was built in 1479, so it's been around for almost 550 years. It is still standing to this day. The original owner was a man named Giovanni Dario, hence the name Casa Cadario. His daughter Marietta and her husband Vincenzo inherited the house. I don't know if he died or if he just gave it to them later in life so they could live there. And this is technically when the curse began. Vincenzo met a grisly end when he was stabbed to death. After the murder of her husband, Marietta wound up killing herself by jumping into the Grand Canal.
The French
She never
toast?
came up out of the water. They never found her again. This is shortly after his murder. The house winds up to their son, Vincenzo Jr. Vincenzo Jr. is like, damn, life sucks right now. Maybe a change of scenery, a little vacay would brighten my mood. So he decides he's going to go to Crete, which is the largest island and the most populous island in the Greek islands. It's also very beautiful. Just by Googling Crete, it's just like some of the most picturesque scenery you could ever imagine.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure if it brightened his mood. What I am sure about is that he was murdered by assassins while in Crete. So the curse keeps on rolling. Pretty sure the assassin that killed him was named Ezio. If you get that joke, 5 cool points. If you don't, you've never played Assassin's Creed.
I thought you were being serious for a second.
He legit was murdered by assassins. So I don't know if they're fucking named Ezio. I can check and see how common that name was in the early 1500s, but who knows? After the tragedies that befell this first family, the word was kind of out that the place is cursed. When that much horrible stuff happens to a mother, a father, and their son, people start talking,
Yeah.
Fishermen around this time, which is over 500 years ago, decided that they were so creeped out by the place, they wouldn't even cast their lines near it. And apparently that's a tradition that's still kept alive to this day.
Wow.
They sail around it because this place is right on the river. And they just sail around it and they will not cast near it. Because
you'll have to show me where this place is.
I'll definitely show you some pictures of it. It's honestly still very pretty. It's the outside of it looks kind of old. But if it's one of those places, I have this line in my script later and I'll have to skip it. But it's one of those places where if you inherited it from a long lost uncle and you went to see it or they showed you pictures, you might think it looks old, but you'd be like, fuck yes, because it's huge.
Okay.
So even though it's not necessarily the nicest looking place from the outside, it does still kind of ring true to the name Palace. And I would be stoked to own it. I would never set foot in it. Not everyone was deterred by the fact that this place was supposedly cursed. A British scientist named Radon Brown purchased the house. I looked into this. It seems like he purchased it, but it was like in the 16 or 1700s. So this happened centuries later. Not sure what happened in between Vincenzo Jr. getting killed by assassins and when this guy named Radon Brown buys it. He has the house for 4 years before he is in financial ruin. He is so destitute. He's on the verge of bankruptcy.
Wow.
At the same time, it is discovered by the high society nearby that he is in a relationship with another man, which at the time was very frowned upon, which brought scandal to his name and to his house, that whole thing.
Okay.
He and the love of his life were so upset by the revelation, they decided they were going to have a nice, quiet night in Casa Cadario. Their bodies were discovered shortly after, dead by apparent double suicide.
That's so sad.
There is some speculation that the cause of death was actually murder-suicide instead.
What?
But no one really knows because it was so long ago. So I guess it's more of like a choose-your-own misadventure, like a choose-your-own tragedy type scenario. So whatever sinks your boat in this case.
What an emotional roller coaster.
What we do know is that they both died, and they were both found in Palace Cadario.
Okay.
So, this isn't even the only story like this. After this happened, like not long after, a man named Charles Briggs, an American millionaire, purchased the property and made it his permanent residence. He's like, I'm just going to go live in Italy. I'm going to buy myself a palace.
Interesting.
And he did. Not long after he moved in, though, he was accused by the locals and the people nearby of being gay, which led to him deciding to abandon the property. He still owned it, but he said, I'm going to go live in Mexico. Fuck you guys. And guess what? You can't escape the curse that easy because while in Mexico, his lover, who was apparently a man, killed himself.
Oh, that's so what the heck is with this depressing shit?
It's very sad. It does remain empty after Briggs owns it until 1964. Like quite a long time. It's basically just empty. At that point, a man named Mario Delmonico, who has a name that sounds fancy, who was a famous opera singer of the time. If you remember Mario Delmonico, give yourself a couple of points just for being so fucking old. But this guy basically says, I'm famous, I have money, I'm not worried about no curse. And he puts down an offer to buy the place. On his way to sign the contract and take possession of it, he gets into a serious car accident that left him injured but not dead.
Oh my gosh.
At that point, someone reached out and said, when would you like to reschedule to come pick up the keys?
Like, no.
And he goes, fuck that. And he winds up not buying it. And then the 1970s hit. And shit gets kind of wild. So there's a flurry of activity with Casa Cadario. It gets purchased by Filippo Giordano del Lanza, also known as the Count of Turin. For those of you who don't know, which was me 20 minutes ago, Turin is a city in northern Italy. So this dude's like well known. He's from Italy. He's a big deal. He has like royal blood and a lot of fucking money. And he decides he might as well own it. What's a curse to a count? And he also had some dude that he was supposedly dicking down. His name was Raul Blasic.
Okay, what is it with like...
I don't know.
Let people be. Why does it matter, you know?
I don't know. But Raul Blasic was a sailor, a local sailor. Some websites say they're just bros, like to hang out and drink together. And other sites say, yeah, they're into it. They liked each other. What is known beyond the status of their relationship is that while hanging out in Casa Cadario, Raul decided that he wanted to take a heavy silver vase and smash the Count's skull in by striking him over and over and over and over. And the Count's body was found the next day by the maid, dead, and there was blood everywhere and a severely dented heavy silver vase. Raul had fled to London at that point. Interestingly enough, if you look up this story on the internet, it's very famous because this guy's the fucking Count of Turin, right? He was murdered in his palace that was supposedly cursed. A lot of places say that Raul flees to London and then gets murdered there himself, like fulfilling the curse completely. I found out that's not true. It appears that Raul flees to London, gets accused of the murder, winds up going to trial for it, gets acquitted, because what it eventually comes down to is he was too far away to have committed the murder. And then people just decide, yeah, because we found the body, the maid found the body, and by then he was already in London. He probably couldn't have done it, despite all the eyewitnesses, like they were together that night and they were at the house. Who else could have done this?
Yeah.
So some time goes by. He eventually gets sued for this again. He gets brought into court again somehow. I don't know how double jeopardy works, but he gets sentenced into 18 years in prison. He winds up never serving a day somehow. I think it's because he's in a different country and just decides to never go back, basically.
What the heck?
So definitely some crazy stuff happening at Casa Cadario, you know? Crazy stories. We're not done. Sit the fuck down. We have a lot more to go, actually.
I wasn't going anywhere.
Kit Lambert. Yes, that Kit Lambert. I know someone out there is like, the manager of The Who? Probably only Garrett, to be fair. Maybe Stefan. He bought Casa Cadario later in the 1970s. He didn't experience any massive financial downfall, and he wasn't brutally murdered. He also didn't kill himself, as far as I know. It's said, though, that when he was in town, he was often seen staying in hotels instead of the palace. And I don't think it's a direct quote. A lot of sites put it in quotes, but it said it was, quote, to avoid the ghosts.
What?
Yeah, it's unknown whether or not he experienced some creepy shit outside of that. But what I can tell you is he bought it in the 70s, a few years after the Count of Turin was murdered there. Only owned it for a few years and then put it up to sell. I think it's 1980 when it gets sold next to a guy named Fabrizio Ferrari, which is apparently the third most common last name in Italy is Ferrari, which I found out after I saw that because I was like,
I would change my name to
related?
Ferrari.
I was like, is he related to Enzo? I need to know. Nah, it's like Smith over there. He was a Venetian businessman, which means he was from Venice. It doesn't mean he sold Venetians. Venetian businessman who he bought it. He moved in with his sister Nicoletta. They're probably like, we're brother, sister. Nothing bad can ever happen. We won't kill each other. Within a few years of buying it, though, he goes bankrupt and all of his assets get repoed. Like, they take all of his shit, including the palace.
Okay.
I imagine at this point, Nicoletta's like, oh, shit, that sucks, bro, and drives off super happy. Like, oh, man, I'm so happy that I wasn't part of the curse. She does crash the car. She dies in a car accident.
What the what?
So, I don't know if she actually said that, but she dies in a car accident.
Excuse me.
Apparently days after they lost the palace.
Oh, my goodness.
Next up, a guy named Raul Gardini, who is a man in finance. I don't know if he has a trust fund, 6'5", or blue eyes, but he does work in finance. He buys the place in the mid to late 80s with the apparent stated purpose of giving it to his daughter after he fixes it up, which clearly means that he fucking hates his daughter. Why would you give her a cursed palace? Like, that's messed up. He never gets around to it, though. He winds up being involved in some sort of financial scandal. From what I can tell, it was something embezzling related. There's not a lot online about it, except for the fact that he winds up broke and disgraced. He kills himself in 1993. So this shit just keeps going. The hits start coming and they don't stop coming. And then year 2000, Woody Allen is attached to try and purchase the property. He apparently doesn't know anything about the history of it. And once he does learn it, because it is eventually disclosed, or he just, decides to do some research, he pulls out of the deal. He probably thought, I don't want to be attached to any sort of scandal. I don't need any bad luck, because he's kept his nose clean his whole life, right? He's a squeaky clean dude, right? Spoilers, he is not.
Oh, okay.
He's a fucking creep. He was accused of molesting his stepdaughter or something like that when she was 7. And then he eventually wanted to be in a relationship with her, I'm pretty sure. Who did you think I meant?
The guy from
Toy Story. He's a doll.
Zombieland.
Oh, Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
No,
Woody Allen's the guy who,
he's a director and an actor. And
he has a stepdaughter, ends up marrying the stepdaughter, and they're 30, 40 years apart or something.
They're very far apart. Yeah. I actually literally had to Google Woody Allen scandal because I couldn't remember what happened. I just remembered that it was his stepdaughter that he wound up marrying.
Yeah.
But apparently in 92, he got accused of molesting her and then denied the whole thing. And then eventually wound up she became his romantic partner. So yeah, anyways, that creepo, he almost bought it. Didn't. A lot of folks probably wished he would have though. And after that, it stayed unowned. Apparently in 2002, I believe, a guy named John Entwistle. That John Entwistle.
He sounds very familiar.
He's the bass player, the original bass player from The Who.
Oh.
Who I'm sure he heard about this place from Kit Lambert, who owned it in the 80s or 70s, the former manager of The Who. He decides he's going to rent it in 2002. He's just going to go stay there, and he does. Okay. And then 7 days later, he dies of a heart attack.
What the French toast,
There are some caveats to toss out about John Entwistle. So yeah, he did die. I think it was 7 days after he had stopped renting Casa Cadario. He did have a heart attack. That is true. He was, if we're being fair here, at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas. A lot of people like to say he died in Paradise, Nevada. guys, that means it's fucking Las Vegas. There's like a million little towns that Las Vegas absorbed as it grew. Paradise is one of them. Hard Rock Hotel, he died while next to a groupie and stripper who was a huge fan of The Who. So, I mean, at least he went out doing what he loved. Chicks.
Okay.
And although the official cause of death was heart attack, he did have a, quote, undetermined amount of cocaine in his system, end quote.
He was like totally hyped, right, with
He
drugs.
was there to start doing residency, I'm pretty sure, with as many original members of The Who wanted to come back as possible. No one really knows how much cocaine was in his system. It is thought to have led to his heart attack or his heart failure. The only reasonable estimate that you can say about how much cocaine was in his system is, quote, enough to kill a John Entwistle, end quote. So,
did you make that up?
Fuck yeah, I did. That's a hilarious joke. I don't see anything about the curse claiming a victim after John Entwistle. This was 2002, so it's been 22 years since anything is documented, or at least that I could find.
Have you looked at any sales or anything like that of this one?
I have not. It's still there, I can tell you that. There's lots of speculation, and this is where it gets really interesting. I mean, if it's not already interesting, but there's a lot of speculation as to why the place is so cursed, because this guy bought it. He didn't have anything bad happen to him. He gave it to his daughter and her husband, and that's when everything went wrong, you know? So one theory posits that the neighboring building, which was built before this one, has something to do with it. Apparently, there's some sort of a talisman for warding off evil that's built into that building that's next to it. And it's been there for a long time. And the more bad things that started to happen here, people started to speculate, maybe because that other building has a talisman that wards off evil, it basically collects
all the
in the
evil?
neighboring property.
Bro.
Because it's being deflected. It's like the ultimate case of your neighbor fucking you over.
Oh my gosh. Chills, dude.
I was like, that's very interesting. And there's pictures of the talisman that's built into the side of it. I will toss those up on our Instagram/Facebook as well. There's a lot of pictures of this place, so we'll see how many of each thing I toss up there. The other theory, and I could not confirm this, I did try and find whether or not this is true, is that Casa Cadario is built on a Knights Templar cemetery.
Is it real?
I don't know. I just prefaced it with that. I have no idea whether or not that is true.
Like, this is in Venice, right? Venice is built on water. How is it built over a cemetery if it's built on water?
I would imagine the word cemetery is inaccurate. I think crypt would probably make more sense.
Okay.
Like it was a repurposed burial ground that, I mean, they have to bury people in Venice. I don't know if they just dump them in the fucking water and they're like, whatever, let God take care of it. But yeah, I have the feeling like this is something like, you know, the whole like Native American burial ground, how everything that's haunted in the United States, people always toss out that theory.
Yeah.
I wonder if in Europe, Knights Templar cemetery/crypt is the replacement for that, because the Knights Templar have such like this air of mystery and like fear to them, and also everyone kind of knows that they were basically all wiped out through an Order 66 that took place on Friday the 13th, which is something that I've covered in a different episode, but it's relatively unknown. There is some sort of documentation apparently that there was an older structure that this was eventually built upon, and that older structure is failing because it's basically used as a foundation, and that Casa Cadario is actually slightly tilted, which would make it like the second most famous place that's slightly tilted in Italy. But it's hard to really tell.
If you guys don't know, he's talking about the Tower of Pisa.
It's literally fucking called the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So it's like, it's called the Leaning Tower, guys. This isn't called the Leaning Haunted Palace or whatever. It's unknown. What I can tell you is that it's large. It's relatively nice looking. If there wasn't a curse associated with it and you saw it, you'd be like, wow, that's really pretty. It definitely has like Gothic architecture, so it totally fits the motif of it being cursed, I guess. And it's like I said, it's one of those buildings where if you inherited it, you would be happy. If someone told you like you have to stay a night in the haunted palace in order to inherit it, you'd be like, fuck yeah, like where's my plane ticket?
And then we'd never wake up again.
You would not think twice about it. And if you would, that's crazy. That is absolutely nuts to me. Now, there's a lot of historical stuff about Casa Cadario that I did confirm. Like, these are deaths that definitely did happen, especially the Count. People love talking about that one, especially in the true crime community. I dug up a lot of gruesome details that weren't in most of the top 10 lists of places that you can go to in Italy that are haunted. Because I know that our true crime buffs out there really want to hear like the nitty gritty of how people got murdered. I don't blame you. Morbid curiosity, whatever. So you're welcome for that. The only thing I know for sure is that, okay, let me rephrase that. This place does seem like it's cursed. Straight up, it seems cursed as hell. Like, there's definitely periods of time where people lived there or it was abandoned and nothing bad happened. But so many folks who knew this place was supposedly cursed, especially in contemporary times, going to it, living in it, buying it, whatever, having just ridiculously horrible things happen to them.
Yeah.
It's just kind of crazy that it just keeps happening. That said, it has been 22 years since anything's happened there. So
is it just that no one's looked into it or recorded it yet?
I am sure one of the ghost hunting, ghost adventure, ghost fighters, ghost breakers, ghostbusters shows out there has been here. Like
Ghost
100%.
Facers.
I sincerely hope, at least, Zach Bagels has visited here. Maybe he can buy it. But, I can't tell you. I didn't see anything when I was looking it up. I saw people that covered it. I didn't see anyone that had visited it.
Okay.
On their like YouTube channels or whatever. But yeah, it's fairly well known. It's said to be one of the most haunted places in the world because of how long this curse has existed. I saw a lot of things that were like top 10 lists of like oldest curses known to man type of thing. And it was in there because it's like 550 years old. The only thing I know for sure, beyond the shadow of a doubt, which I just learned 30 seconds before I wrote this sentence into my script, is that Casa Cadario, which is possibly the most haunted place in Italy, is 150 feet from our hotel in Venice.
You're lying.
It is 1 block away.
You're lying.
I checked to see the distance between all the places that we're staying at and the places that I was going to cover. And when I swear to you, when I typed in Casa Cadario, it brought it up. I was like, okay, cool. And then I typed in our other place. I was like, why won't Google Maps fucking move? And I was getting really annoyed. So I just took the address of our hotel and I put it in there. I was like, oh, we're right there. It's the Monster Hunter Cafe of this vacation.
Oh God, no.
So
the Monster Hunter Cafe was a happy little accident,
we got like notification there was a
isn't.
Monster Hunter Cafe in Japan, and we were super excited to hear it because we were playing Monster Hunter a ton right before our trip. Turns out it was across the street from a hotel, and we went there twice. It was super cool. So if we want to go get cursed and experience financial ruin or die,
no,
we only have to walk half a block
after
or so.
this episode, he's going to have to show me.
I'm going to show you right now so that they can hear your reaction to seeing how close it is. All right. This right here is our hotel.
Uh-huh.
This right here is Palazzo Dario. And as you can see, I've measured the distance and it measures out to 144.25 feet.
Okay. Now drop me down there.
Okay. Oh, can we do that? I don't know if Google Maps has like driven its car through. It has.
No, scroll back out. Scroll back out.
You just said drop me down there. Now you're saying scroll back out.
Scroll back out.
Make up your mind, dog.
Take the little dude. Drop him over here.
That's it.
Okay.
Right there.
All right. This thing looks... Why does it have a bunch of scaffolding around it?
I bet you they're renovating it right now.
No, this is 2013. They're not renovating it now.
So we're going to get there and it's going to be renovated and they're going to be like, come get cursed. I'm going to make you go to this place.
No, you're not.
Guys.
It doesn't even look like we can get
Robin,
there without
name your
a boat.
price. Name your price for the people. We used to do patron goals.
No fucking way, dude. No way.
I was
could not.
shocked after I went through all the curses and all the people that have died here to get to the point where I was like, all right, how far is it away from our place? And then when I looked at it, I was like, holy shitballs. It's right next to it. Yeah.
It's right next to it. Y'all.
This is where we're staying.
Thanks, I hate it.
And then over there is the haunted palace. So, fun times. Yeah. And that, my spooky friends, is Haunted Italy.
Thank you for that one. That one was a chilling episode.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, that, a lot of chills there for me. Like, it was shocking.
It had chills, thrills, and surprises. And
Lots
I'm glad
of
you were
surprises.
along for the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's along for the ride.
Yeah, we'll see if we actually make it back. What if our plane crashes on the way back?
Dude, stop.
It's like rain on your wedding day. Anyways.
You gotta sing it.
No, I
it's
refuse.
like rain.
Anywho, that is my topic for this episode. Maybe next week, Robin will cover something haunted about the places that we're going to on the second leg of our vacation. Who knows? You're not gonna?
Maybe. I don't know.
We'll see. Anyways, expect to hear from us in the next couple weeks. And then, yeah, we're going to take that little break as we tour Europe. So Fun times. Once in a lifetime vacation. Very excited. If you have any stories you would like to share with us, it does not have to be about Haunted Italy or any of the locations I went over. It could be about anything supernatural, paranormal, extraterrestrial, true crime, even coincidental, where it's not exactly one of those things, but you were afraid it was, and it's just a happenstance that was actually hilarious. Feel free to email those to us by emailing storytime@scaryish.com, or you can go to our website, scaryish.com, click on Contact Us, fill out that form, it comes directly to us. Or you can hit us up on our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod, and Instagram is @scarishpodcast. We would love to hear from you, however you want to submit those stories. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are monthly donations with tiers starting at $1. And you can also go to ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. And those are one-time donations if you're not into the subscription type service. Anything you guys share with us, donate. It really helps us out. Like, it really helps us out, and we couldn't be here without you.
Yeah. Thank you so much to everyone who supports us, whether it's through sending us stories, sending us money, sharing us with a friend or family member, or just listening. It means the world to us. It really does. And we're here because of you. So that's everything we have for this episode 298 of Scaryish. So, Robin, why don't you go ahead and sign us out?
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.